Cassie. This is the Climax Hour. I am very blessed and lucky to be here with the beautiful Miss Rebecca. We're going to start off this interview with asking what you're drinking.
I'm drinking white wine.
Me as well.
Pinot Grigio.
And why wine? What do you like about wine?
Well, it's less filling than beer, so that's always a good thing. But I also can pace myself better with wine.
Huh, okay.
So,
what if you're getting really crazy? What will you drink? Like, if you want to get fucked up?
if I want to get fucked up, I'll drink beer, mostly.
Really?
I don't do shots anymore because I just get too fucked up and I get too hungover. So I might start the night with a dirty martini or a mojito, but then I go straight back to wine or beer.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I like wine too because especially if you want to get naked for somebody, you feel a little bit more in shape when you're drinking wine. You're not so bloated.
Yes. Exactly.
Beer, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
God.
Exactly.
Gotta take my dress off.
And
Do you work out?
I do. I work out. I ride my bike to and from work, and I do calisthenics, etc. But I'm not like a freak about it.
Right.
So I'm realistic about it.
Right.
So.
You like to be healthy and in shape, but you're not like
Right.
7 days a week climbing out of bed at 4 in the morning to go to the gym.
No.
That can be super annoying when people are like that.
Right. I think people try too hard, and I think it's good to have curves, and I like to have some curves, and I
Yeah.
don't feel like I need to be a size 0 to be beautiful.
No,
So.
and I think like back in the day, I mean, curvier women, that was the thing. I mean, that was beautiful. And all of a sudden, in society now, we've come to this place where it's like, hey, I look like, I've been starving for 10 years. You're hot. I'm with you. I don't think that that's attractive.
I agree. Yeah, and it's definitely trends set those guidelines. I mean, if you look at Marilyn Monroe,
Right.
or people, there's a term Rubenesque, and that comes from a time and place where it was actually more attractive for you to be heavier because that meant that you were wealthier and you had more food.
Yeah, you could provide more means for yourself. Yeah, like
Exactly.
better food, better dishes, more drinks, more. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know when it shifted, but it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Twiggy had something to do with that. So.
Right, and there it is. And models though. The thing about Twiggy, I'm sure she was pissed that she was so skinny until she started making money for it because models actually there's like a 1%, 1 out of every 1 million people or something like that have that genetic body type. It's just not realistic at all. And I learned about that in one of my classes in college. It's like so few and far between, kind of like they're freaks of nature.
That's true.
And now they're the ones that we're supposed to be like putting clothes on and we're supposed to say, oh, I'm going to look like that. No way in hell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
So tell me, you can come on in and have a
Okay.
seat, but tell me more about your upbringing. Your mom and dad, do you have siblings? Are you the youngest, oldest? And what is your relationship like with them?
Well, I grew up in the suburbs, a lower middle class family. My parents were working class. I'm the youngest of 2. I have an older sister, and it was a very uneventful childhood, somewhat boring, at least for me, because living in the suburbs was very boring. My parents were good parents, but they had us very young, so I think that there was a learning curve. But they had learned a lot, thankfully, by the time
How young were
they
they?
had me. My mom was 17 when she got pregnant with my sister.
Okay.
And then they had me 5 years later.
Okay.
So there were some rough times financially and emotionally. And they grew up in the 50s.
Right.
So they had some, what I would now call backwards attitudes about relationships and sex.
Right.
And that did affect me in many ways.
Well, they were so much more closed off.
Yes.
Like they didn't, it's not something you talk about. You don't talk about,
No.
this is what I do and I want to try this and I'm curious about this. It's just like, hush, hush, we don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about sex. I never had the talk with my parents. And I felt ashamed about being sexual.
Right.
I felt guilty when I masturbated. My mother and father both sent messages to us that the boy should call you. You shouldn't call the boy.
Right.
So there were a lot of messages that were really, not sex positive, especially for a female.
Did you, what age did you first start masturbating?
Gosh, that's a good question. I would say probably 12.
Okay. I know when I taught preschool, literally, there's something called child sex play.
Okay.
And kids 3 and 4 years old, they would, like there was a girl, she would climb on top of the dollhouse and be like, and I'm like, well, she's either, and there's a fine line. I'm like, well, there's either some kind of trauma happening or she just found the spot, good for her, at 4 years old and knows how to fucking hit it. And she's like pleasing herself.
Yes. I remember actually climbing in gym or something, climbing a pole, and I was only probably 6 or 7, and I remember how it felt, and it felt amazing.
That's hot.
So I think I was pretty in touch with my body early on.
Right.
But I never talked about it.
Right.
Not even with my girlfriends. It was private, and it was kind of shameful.
Right.
So.
Well, this is the Climax Hour. We will be back in a second. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to www.theclimaxhour.com or you can email me at theclimaxhour@gmail.com. We shall return with our wine and sex talk. Cheers.
Cheers.
When I have never been more depressed, why drink too much? Does that make you laugh? All right, so we're back, and we had some technical difficulties, which does happen. And I was also told I was looking up at the person with the camera. So now I'm going to look at the camera directly, and Rebecca, and my wine. So there's that. So we're going to kind of push through this. We're at a fetish party live, actually, with a company called Exquisix, and it's for just people who have different fetishes. It could be swinging, it could be, bondage, this, that, the other. But we're here, and Eric might kill us if we go over, so we're going to try to rock through this. Rebecca, first sexual experience?
I was about 16 or 17 in high school. One night stand, basically. Nothing exciting.
Nothing that you loved?
No.
And then your second was very different.
Yes, it was. I met an older man. I was 17 and he was 21 or 22. And we had an affair. We had sex numerous times. And it was okay.
Right.
So.
And we talked about the fact that, you were, technically underage.
Yes. I was underage, and I did have a pregnancy scare. And when I told my mother about it, she threatened to call the police because I was underage.
Have him arrested.
Yeah, and I was mortified.
Would you have kept the kid? What if you were pregnant?
No.
No?
Never.
Would have been done.
I would have had an abortion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so going to the theme, we're at a swingers party. Rebecca, you have been married for?
I've been married for 6 years.
Okay, and you met Scott, one of my favorite stories ever.
Online on Craigslist, and we met 7 years ago, and about a year and 3 months after we'd been dating, we just mutually decided to get married. We were going on vacation a month later, and so we were we really liked each other.
And Scott, when he put the ad on Craigslist, funny little part, he had a 2-year gap. He was looking for women 23 to 25.
Right. And he was about 39 at the time. So I called him out on that.
To catch a predator.
Yeah, to catch a predator. Exactly. I called him out on that online and, told him that even though I was 38 at the time, that I'm pretty fun and pretty sexy. And I didn't think I would hear back from him, and I did. And
where was your first date?
Our first date was at the Black Beetle in the Ukrainian village.
That's awesome. I was just there.
Yep, on a really cold night in January. So
did you bang him on the first date?
No. I made out with his ass in my car for a half hour, and he begged me to come inside with him, and the only reason I didn't go is because I had to work the next day.
Oh shit. Was Journey playing?
No.
I'm picturing rain and
no, it was snow and cold, and I listen to punk rock, so there was no Journey.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I was I was ready to cry. It was like a Lifetime movie. Right. Oh, she's in a car with him in the rain. No, that's crazy. Yeah. So the Beatle first date, and here you are now. You had an anniversary recently.
Yep. Our 6-year wedding anniversary was on May 29th.
How many do you have?
We have 3 dogs, 5 cats.
Holy shit.
And a turtle.
So you live on a farm.
Right, in Chicago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. Yeah. Oh, and a turtle?
And a turtle.
What is your turtle's name?
Shelly.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And it was a stray turtle, I want you to know.
Where did you find this turtle?
My patient found the turtle on the street in Chicago.
And brought it to you?
Said, do you want a turtle? And I said, of course I do. So.
And you're an occupational therapist.
I am.
So
I've been an occupational therapist for 23 years, and I love my work, and I'm very involved in my work, but it's not my life. I try to have fun outside of that.
Right.
And I specialize in hand therapy, so I help people with hand injuries and wrist injuries.
What about hand jobs?
And right, and it's actually, there's a running joke, like when I'm looking for work, if I'm looking for work, which is rare, people will say, so you're looking for a hand job? And I'll say, yes. I am.
Yeah. I will show you how to properly do it.
Right.
Start slow, go fast. Right.
And I actually will get some patients who have carpal tunnel syndrome.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does. But males who get it, and they'll tell me it's from typing, and I'm like, oh.
You're masturbating.
You're masturbating
and watching
too much.
porn.
And watching porn too much, yeah.
You're like, oh, you're not having sex with your wife. That sucks.
Right.
That's hilarious, though.
Yeah.
Well, so how would you define you and Scott's marriage? Like, how would you say, I mean, you're kind of, would you say open relationship? Kind of?
Yes, I would. We're non-monogamous. We're open. A lot of people would say we're swingers, but we don't like to use that term. I think it has a lot of negative connotations. I think one thing people think is that we will fuck anybody and everybody, which is not true.
Right.
We're very selective about our lovers. We've gone through some transitions. We used to date couples, but that didn't work out very well for various reasons. And so now we are free to date people separately on our own. So.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
About 1.5 years.
Can I ask, what was the conversation like that started that?
Well, from early on in our marriage, Scott and I were both very open-minded people.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a don't ask, don't tell policy.
Okay.
He traveled a lot, and I told him, if you meet somebody in a bar and you want to fuck her, have at it.
Really?
Yes, I had no problem with that. But I didn't want to hear about it.
Right.
And he, on the other hand, wanted me to do the same thing, but he wanted to hear about it.
Huh.
He thought that was sexy.
Okay. Other men desiring you.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And he wanted to hear the naughty details.
Right.
And I was not as open to that. So what happened was, about 1.5 years ago, we were on vacation and we met a man and we had a threesome with him. And that kind of started the opening up process.
So how did that, were you guys like at the bar drinking? Like how did that even transpire?
It was a crazy night. It was a night of firsts. It was my first night at a strip club.
Really?
Yeah, I was 44 years old, and it was the first time I had been to a strip club.
Oh, I love strip clubs.
Yeah, and I had a blast,
Love
and it was the first night we paid a stripper to do a private session with us, and she actually let us have sex with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was this at?
Yeah, in West Palm Beach.
I'm like, can we,
Yeah.
My dad lived there for some years.
Yeah, not Chicago. And she was super hot, so it was my first threesome with a woman.
Right.
And then 6 hours later, after much partying, I had my first threesome with 2 men.
Oh my gosh. I've done with 2 men, yeah.
It's awesome.
It's interesting. There's so much stimulation. You're like, I want to stop this, but I can't, because I was like, should I be doing this? This is a lot happening. But I'm like, this is never going to happen again.
Right.
2 men are not going to agree to this ever again.
Right. No.
It's a very unique situation.
Oh, I disagree, actually. I know now that we've been in this lifestyle, male, female threesomes are pretty common.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time, like, a lot of men tend to, I don't know, from my experience, they're like, I'm not going to get naked with another man. They get kind of macho with it.
They do. But a lot of the men in the lifestyle are very open-minded and not homophobic.
Right.
So even though they're straight, like my husband is straight, he has no problem being in the same bed with another man who's fucking
that's amazing.
me. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And if their body parts touch, it's not like he freaks
doesn't
out.
freak out.
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Wow.
So
that's kind of what started it.
Yep, definitely. When we came home from West Palm Beach, I was like, that was awesome, and I want to do that a lot more.
What did he say?
He was like, so do I. And so we started finding single men to have threesomes with.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where do you find these people at? Do you go
online?
We
were finding them on Craigslist, and then we evolved into meeting swingers, we didn't even know there was a lifestyle.
There's a big community of
Yes.
swingers in Chicago.
There
Huge.
is. Yeah. And a lot of people from all walks of life, which amazes me.
Yeah.
Like, your neighbor could be
A swinger.
a swinger, and he could be a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant.
Well, I found that like we were talking about earlier, it seems like everybody that I know in the swinging lifestyle, they're very successful.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be very in shape, super like open-minded, and
Yep.
very happy. I
Yes.
mean, ultimately.
Yes, I think so. I do think that a lot of maturity has to be involved with being in an open relationship.
And not a lot of jealousy.
Right, not a lot of jealousy. That's not going to work. But most of the people that I know in the lifestyle are very successful people.
Right.
So, whatever preconceptions people might have about us, you might want to reconsider those.
Yeah.
So-
I think that people just don't know. They're not educated. They
Right.
don't know enough about it.
I think it's ignorance, and I was ignorant too. I did not know that it could be safe for a woman to be in a room full of men and not feel unsafe,
Right.
you know? And
Right.
I found that to be the opposite.
An ultimate face. And I miss. So, speaking of anal, I remember. Speaking of anal sex, I've had it twice. The first time was with a guy who was a personal trainer. And he used to fucking text message me, and he'd be like, put one hand on 0 and one hand on 8 on a tape measure. He's like, imagine that in your mouth. And I was like, what a dick. You're going to talk shit to me? You want to come over and fuck me? But here's the thing. He had a thing with virgins. He knew I'd never been fucked in the ass. This guy comes over. He's 47 years old. At the time, I was like 28. And he didn't drink. He like quit drinking because it's bad for you, whatever. So are most things in life. Comes over. He's like trying to massage my shoulders. I'm like, we don't know each other. We don't like each other. I'm not sure why this is happening.
Sure.
And so then he's like, oh, just relax. It was just like super, it was like a Lifetime movie. It was terrible. You know, it's like Meredith Baxter is going to appear at any minute, right? And he's like, just relax. And he's like massaging me. And then he proceeds to say like, he like puts a condom on and he did have a nice dick. But I was like so not into it. I'm like
whatever.
I'm like, you have an old face but a young body. It was freaking me out.
Right.
It was kind of like, you know, puppet stuff. I'm like, this is strange. Like, it doesn't match. I don't know what's going on. So then he like, all of a sudden he's like, do you have toys? So he pulls out my vibrator and he's like, zzz, and I'm like, yeah. And then he puts his dick in my ass. There was no tequila. It was like literally the afternoon, no lube. And I was like, ah! I literally was like hanging out in my bed. And he's like, you're good. I'm like, when is the last time you've been fucked in the ass? Probably never.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe he didn't use lube.
I literally, when he left, I was like,
yeah.
And my friend's like, you don't eat. You shouldn't eat. And I'm like, how the fuck
You
am I
didn't
supposed to know?
right?
It is a diuretic.
Yeah.
For all of you who don't know, you will shit yourself when you leave. And when they're pulling it out of your butt, too, you're like, ah!
Yeah. Yeah, there should be plenty of lube.
And you like it in the ass.
I do.
You take it all the time?
Not all the time. Actually, believe it or not, a lot of men are not into that. Which surprises me. But I would say probably 30% of the time I'll have anal sex.
And it doesn't hurt?
No.
But it did at one point.
It did. And actually, one of my first lovers when we were in an open relationship turned me on to an anal kit, which I would highly recommend for everybody.
What does it even mean?
It's just graded.
What is an anal kit?
It's 3 or 4 graded dildos. So you start with a small one, and then you work up to the bigger one.
Really?
And it's that simple. And I thought it would take me a month to get up to the big one, and it took me an hour.
It's kind of like gauges. You just expand it.
Exactly, you're expanding. And just like the vagina, the ass is actually very expandable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so.
But then, like, after that happens, like, I mean, because you kind of have to control your ass muscles.
A little bit.
Do you ever, like, spend the whole day on the toilet? I mean, really, I shit myself. I had to go to a Halloween party. I walked into that party, and I was walking like someone, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, a cowgirl. They're like, what happened? I'm like, I got fucked in the ass. Like, straight up. And they were like, wow, that's nice. I couldn't even walk.
But you had a painful experience.
Yes.
Which is not how it should be. I will say, though, yes, you spend more time on the toilet after Anal. But it's getting better. The more I do it, the better it gets.
And you get off.
Yes.
There is a G-spot in the ass, by the way.
Yes. I mean, I don't usually have orgasms during anal, but it feels incredibly good.
Well, good for you. My friend loves that shit. She's like, I get fucked in the ass all the time. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I guess you don't have to work out because you're constantly shitting yourself. And then you're like in great shape because it, you know.
Right.
I mean, it really, I don't know. I was like nervous. I'm like, am I going to shit on my bed? I mean, he's pulling it out. I'm like, ah! He was just crazy.
Yeah, well, and that can happen, and a lot of people, you know, one thing you have to realize, if you're doing ass play, there is the potential that there will be dirty things happening.
Right.
And if people can't handle that, then they're immature.
Right. I love that you masturbated with the wine bottle.
I did.
The other day.
Yes.
Downtown. You have to poke a hole in it or it will suck out. Right?
Right, yes.
How do you poke a hole in it, though? What do you do? Get a drill?
No. It had already been opened and everything, so it was fine.
It suctions to your... But
No, it didn't, though. I mean, it was brief, so...
It was a champagne?
It was a champagne bottle.
Oh, that's nice. Happy endings.
Yes.
What do you say to people who would say that swingers, that it's more of like a trashy lifestyle? What would you say to that? I mean, because people are very judgmental and closed-minded.
They are.
So,
it's not... Trashy is not a word I would use for it at all. Actually, the party we're at tonight has fancy hors d'oeuvres.
They do.
And white wine.
And good wine. Because I've heard people say that. Isn't that kind of... You know, and I'm like, I don't...
seedy. It's like seedy and trashy. No, I don't feel that way at all. And if I was in a situation that was seedy or trashy, I probably wouldn't be there.
Right.
Because that's not my style.
I just think people have a lot to learn.
They do. And I hope to spread the word about the lifestyle and the positive things about it, especially for women. I'm very much a feminist, and one thing I love about the lifestyle for women is that women run the show.
And all the men seem they're gentlemen, and they treat the women well. Like, my dating experiences here are way worse than, like, any kind of experience you have with swingers. Like,
right.
You know?
I agree. Most men in the lifestyle know that there's limits, and if a woman says no, she means no.
Right.
I've never had a man try to force me to do anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and when I say no, or even if I give the vibe like I'm not into you, I
had a man force me to pay the bill because he forgot his wallet.
He forgot his wallet.
He's like, I'm a hockey player. I just got out of jail. Should have been a red flag.
Oh yeah.
But I went out anyway.
Oh well.
He was cute.
I
he had nice eyes.
I'm dating a guy right now who spent 5 years in jail.
Really?
And he's awesome.
And he has a wallet.
This
guy does not have a wallet.
He has a wallet. And he often splits the bill with me, and I think that's awesome.
Dude, this guy was like, $70 later, he's like, I don't seem to find my wallet. It's like, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
How big's your penis? Can I get something out of this? Really? That's terrible. I did have sex. I was so mad. And then I sent him home. I'm like, okay, you can
well, good for you.
I had to get something out of it. It was really annoying.
Sure.
And he got drunk and a free meal. It's great. I mean, I think that swingers, like, I'm learning more all the time. And like I said, when I went to the brunch, these are the most smartest people, most attractive people, most in shape people, happiest people. It's like what people don't know.
Right. I agree. And a lot of people, well, they think they know what swingers are, but like I said, they could be living next door to you. So the next time you look at your neighbor, you might want to think that could be...
Are you a swinger?
Are you a swinger?
You might be.
Because it very well could be. And I do know for a fact that open relationships are on the rise in our population.
I think monogamy too, like, briefly, like monogamy, it's difficult. I mean, you're always going to be attracted to other people.
Right.
That's just the truth. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of animalistic in that way where we're like on the hunt.
Always. Yeah. I don't think it's human nature to be monogamous, and there's actually 2 great books out there called What Do Women Want? And Sex at Dawn, and I would highly recommend that anyone who's interested or questions monogamy should read those 2 books.
And there's another book that I want to read that if you're not 7 inches, you should read the book on how to go down. I'm going to help you out.
There you go. No, that's a good...
You don't have to have a big dick, but you need to be good at other things.
Yes, I agree.
Pleasing your partner is very important.
Yes. I agree.
Yes, and before we get killed by Eric, this is the Climax Hour. Rebecca's been lovely. And cheers, we're going to go get more drunk. And there's a dildo upstairs you can sit on with like 15 speeds. So that may be happening momentarily.
Nice.
Push it on.